Hi guys, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today we're going to be painting a festive Christmas holiday wreath with loads of blues and greens and some big red berries. So I can't wait to get started. It's perfect for Christmas cards or anything kind of holiday festive you want to paint. Just put some Christmas music on and let's get creative. Alright then guys, before we get started, as usual, we'll just run through supplies really quickly. So I'm using my Winsor & Newton Professional Watercolour paints, so I'm going to tell you the colours that I'm using, but you can download my full supply guide off my website and the link is in the video description. Then for paper, I'm going to be using Legion Stonehenge Aqua cold press 100% cotton paper, and for the brushes we're using Princeton Aqua Elite, so I've got a size 6 round and a size 2 round. So, in order to make our wreath, first we are going to do a circle outline. Now for this I've got a old embroidery hoop you can trace around a bowl, a plant pot, a ring of sellotape, anything you've got that is circular. You can also freehand it, but I am notoriously bad with freehand drawing, so I'm just going to do a quick pencil line around here. You want to leave a bit of white space if you can around the edges, so don't get it up close to the edge of your paper. Then once you've got your circle, I'm just going to run a rubber around here. Pencil lines are notoriously difficult with watercolour because they are visible through the paint, and they can't be erased after you've painted, so it's best to get them as light as possible before you start. So you're not going to be able to see that well on camera, but I can see it from where I am here. It still goes around there. So for the wreath today, we're going to do two types of leaves. So we're going to do some blue-grey eucalyptus type leaves with brown stems, and then we're going to do green filler leaves as well, and we're going to add some deep red berries. So for colours, I'm going to be using Prussian Blue mixed in here, and essentially a ton of water. You can use other blues or greys like indigo or maybe a little Payne's grey. I might add a little Payne's grey actually. It's one of my favourite colours to make it a little bit more grey. But what you want with eucalyptus type leaves is really, really light colours, so loads and loads of water. Then for the green, I'm going to be using Hooker's Green mixed with Sap Green. So two of my favourite greens, and combined they make a really good fresh foresty type green. For the reds, we are probably going to use Winsor Red Deep for nice contrast. So the way we're going to do this is we're going to paint around in a clockwise formation. I usually start about here because I'm right-handed and it helps me get around without, if I start over here then I end up smudging it. And what we're going to do is just alternate the blues and the greens. So for the blues, we're going to get a really light mix loaded up and then paint some little leaf-shaped blobs. Now I'm going to do this in a really loose style because I'm not one for botanical perfection. Now, while that's still wet, what I'm going to do is switch over to a little brush and add some burnt umber. So just a little tiny bit over there. Actually, I want that a bit darker. I'm going to mix in a little black to that. I want it to be a really deep brown, not a yellowy brown. And then I'm going to put in some little stems here and just let that bleed up. It works so well because of the blue and the turquoise. That little colour combination there. And then we're going to switch on to the green, and we are going to add some green leaves. So I'm going to pull a stem up there and then add the leaves. And what I'm going to do as we paint these leaves is get darker and lighter values next to each other. So we're going to have some darker leaves and some lighter leaves as we go. And that contrast will really help. There we go. And then the last one, I'm going to use loads of water and just connect it to the blue as well. And then we're going to repeat that to add some more blue. So add another leaf there, one that's a bit darker there, and then a really light one here. They don't have to always be in threes. It helps to kind of keep varying up the number. In fact, I'm going to do that. I'm going to add a fourth one, a little one there. And then we're back to our brown. There we go. I already like how this is looking. Now, while these are all still wet, what I'm going to do is add some berries in. So I'm going to wash off my brush really well and then grab myself some Winsor Red Deep here. I like this kind of maroon red. It's quite a cool red. There we go. And then I'm going to add some little berries. So it's just a circle with a little white highlight. I paint over the highlights quite regularly, so don't worry about it too much. So we're going to add some berries in any of the gaps, and you can see that I'm letting it get quite light, and then I'm going to use some darker red as well next to it. So what we're aiming to do here, let me wash my brush off and get a really light value, is create a mixture of the red values. Do a light one there. So I'm going to add another one there. So you can see we're allowing it to bleed in. We're getting a good mixture of some darker and some lighter. We're getting some different shapes and some different numbers as well. So there's some that are in pairs, there are some that are in threes. If you get three that are all the same there, you can actually use a wet brush and just pick some of that up to make that lighter. Some with highlights, some without, and they're just going to bleed into the different leaves that we've got going on here. So I'll get that all washed off again. You can always check this on a paper towel just to make sure it's as clean as possible. My water's actually quite red there. And get some cool water on there, and then we'll go to our greens again. So we're just going to continue this. Rather than having another stem, what I'm going to have is a little set of 3 leaves. So we're going to pull one out there, a really light one out there, and then I'm going to put the darkest one out from the center. There we go. While I've got the green on my brush, I'm also going to come down and do the green leaves here. I quite like to paint the leaf, the wreath, sorry, both sides at a time. It allows me to make sure that I'm reusing the same colours in different parts of the wreath. So again, we'll paint a little triple leaflet down here. Rinse that off really well, and then we're back to our blue. So when you get to the edges, try not to touch the edge of the paper. It can make it feel very compressed. That's quite a dark one, so next to it I'm going to do a really light one. You're ultimately all about creating contrast with these. You can also go in and drop some darker colour like that if you think all of the blue ones look very similar. What I'm going to do is let that just be a little pair up there, and then I'm going to create many more down here. So I've got 5 in a row. So while they're still wet, back to my stems. These don't have to be perfect, but they give it, I think, some quite nice darkness. And then while everything is still wet, let's go and do our berries again. So back to our red mixture, and all you're trying to do is spot gaps in this and then fill them in. I much prefer letting the reds touch the blues than I do the greens. The reason is that when you let the reds and the greens mix, they can create a kind of brown colour because they're opposites on the colour wheel, whereas they blend quite nicely with the blues. Let's get that rinsed off and then create a lighter value there. Maybe one over here as well. I think actually Could put some more in there. Maybe that should be a bit darker. There we go. Right then, and lighter values down here, so one out here, one there, and do a tiny one. There we go. If you can see any other gaps, you can always just add an occasional little berry in there. I don't think you can have too many berries in these kind of wreaths. There we go. Then for the very last bit, I'm going to put in a green stem to close the gap. So, coming down here, I'm going to put the end leaf in there. There we go. And then again with our contrast, so a light colour next, maybe more sap green there. The best way to paint these leaves is just to do something different with each leaf. So that's more sap green. So then we're going to use more hooker's green and switch sides. Nice deep one. And then wash that right off and have a really light value in this gap here. Actually, maybe that's a bit too light. Light, but not so that we can't see it. And then I'm going to have another light value over here. There we go. So, final additions of some berries just in these gaps. I'm also going to pop one in there. Fill that one back in. There we go. Now you can have a look, are there any gaps further back up that you want to fill in? So we've got the perfect full wreath. Okay, I really like how that's looking. What I'm going to do is actually take a bit of a step back now and see if it needs any adjustments. So it could be you need more contrast, it could be some of them are bleeding out too far and you want to pick that up. That's fine, you just need a clean brush for it. You can see how it's making a brown colour in there, so we'll pick that up, and maybe that one as well. I just want to put a little bit more contrast in there, that's all looking very similar. There we go. And then when you're happy with it, stop before you overwork it. And that is my finished wreath. And there we have it. It looks amazing. I love the contrast on this one with the red and the green. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Please let me know in the comments what you want to see next, and I'll see you in the next video.